Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. A bill to amend the Companies Act 2013 and decriminalise various offences under it was introduced in Lok Sabha on Tuesday. Minister of State for Finance Anurag Thakur introduced the bill in the lower house, making it clear that the government was not looking to decriminalise non-compoundable offences. The bill was introduced amid opposition by members of various parties who vehemently opposed the bill, demanding that it be referred to the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance. The government says the amendments in the existing Companies Act will help reduce the burden on the National Company Law Tribunal. On this edition of In Depth, we'll talk about the changes proposed in the Companies Law and the contentious provisions due to which the opposition parties wanted to be sent to the Parliamentary Standing Committee. We'll also give you a brief on the Companies Act of 2013 and the amendments that were made to it in 2019. The government on Tuesday introduced a bill in Lok Sabha to amend the Companies Act, proposing 72 changes ranging from removing criminality from a host of offences under the Act and paving the way for direct overseas listing of Indian companies. This, the government says, shows its commitment towards ease of doing ethical business and ease of doing honest business. The bill proposed 72 changes to the Companies Act 2013.
Introducing the bill in Lok Sabha, Minister of State for Finance Anurag Thakur said the government was committed to ensure ease of doing ethical business. The proposed changes recategorize at least 23 offences out of the 66 compoundable offences under the Act in case of defaults which can be determined objectively and which otherwise lack any element of fraud or do not involve larger public interest. These will be dealt with an in-house adjudication framework. Besides, 7 compoundable offences would be omitted.
So what kind of environment do we want to see in the country? Do we want to criminalize everything? Sir, as I said earlier, this is the second phase of decriminalization process, which we have started through the Companies Amendment Bill 2019, and the Companies Act 2013 had been passed in 2013, wherein a number of technical and procedural defaults have been criminalized. Sir, we are not decriminalizing any provision which deal with fraud, injury to public interest or non-compoundable offences. Our government is committed towards ease of doing ethical business and ease of doing honest business, sir. That is very important. Sir, we would like to adopt a balanced approach on this issue, wherein business are accorded due respect and faith, and not only me, sir, only the Prime Minister has also said that we should give due respect to the taxpayers and not criminal cases time and again. I think there should be conducive environment where the industry should also grow and create employment and generate employment, sir. And it is very important. If India has to become a $5 trillion economy, such amendments are also required.
The proposed decriminalization was only for minor procedural and technical faults which do not involve fraud, injury to the public interest or non-compoundable offences.
सरकार ने कंपनी एक्ट में बड़ा बदलाव करते हुए कई प्रावधानों को डीक्रिमिनलाइज कर दिया है। साथियों, आज भारत दुनिया के उन प्रमुख देशों में है जहां कॉरपोरेट टैक्स सबसे कम है। ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस की रैंकिंग में सिर्फ 5 साल में रिकॉर्ड 79 रैंक का सुधार करने वाला देश भी भारत ही है। सरकार के इन प्रयासों के बीच विदेशी निवेशकों का भी भारतीय अर्थव्यवस्था में भरोसा लगातार बढ़ रहा है।
In this particular set of amendments, the priority is to decriminalize this act. So majority of what is being changed is to remove those particular sections or particular, technical requirements, all of which result in giving a criminality to the offense which may not be at all intended to be magnified. So what we have done is 72 changes, all of which have been approved by the Cabinet, which will result in amending 65 sections. The major thrust, of course, is looking at ease of doing business and decriminalizing.
The proposed amendments also include enabling provisions for the direct listing of securities of Indian public companies in permissible foreign jurisdictions. This is likely to help startups to tap overseas markets for raising capital if they perceive that there may not be enough risk appetite among domestic investors. The bill proposes to let businesses pay adequate remuneration to non-executive directors at par with executive directors in case of inadequacy of profits and extends lesser penalties for small companies, one-person companies and producer companies in the case of all offences that attract monetary penalties.
There are some issues related with the remuneration to independent directors. That has also been clarified in this particular amendment bill, that how much they can be paid. So independent directors who are not considered as a very, very important part, in terms of remuneration, of course, in terms of work, they are very, very important. But in terms of remuneration, they are not getting the kind of money which an executive director is getting. So now they will be able to, the companies will be able to give more money to the independent director. And we can expect that the independent directors will have more will take their job more seriously because of the remuneration.
Company Amendment Bill, it seeks to decriminalize certain offences, certain acts which were hitherto covered, which hitherto attracted some criminal penalties. Those acts will be now decriminalized. Now this way it will actually boost the business. It will also boost the confidence of the investors and business persons.
The bill also seeks to exempt companies whose corporate social responsibility or CSR obligation is below 50 lakh rupees from constituting a CSR committee. Also, companies spending amounts in excess of their CSR spending obligations could set off such excess amount against their spending obligations in subsequent years. There is also a proposal that specified classes of unlisted companies have to prepare and file their periodical financial results at a frequency that will be notified later. This provision is aimed at improving corporate governance. The idea behind this provision is to bring more transparency into the affairs of closely held companies, which are at times used by major shareholders in companies with large public interest to divert funds through transactions that are not on arm's length basis. The Companies Amendment Act 2020 also empowers the central government to exclude, in consultation with the Securities and Exchange Board of India, certain class of companies from the definition of listed company, mainly for listing of debt securities. With inputs from Leena Sharma, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's now talk about how much is India Inc. spending towards corporate social responsibility and what are the changes proposed towards CSR in the Companies Amendment Bill 2020. The Companies Amendment Bill 2020 proposes that the companies which have corporate social responsibility spending obligation up to 50 lakh rupees need not set up a committee for this purpose. The bill introduced in the Lok Sabha on the 17th of March seeks to provide that the companies that spend up to 50 lakh rupees towards CSR shall not be required to constitute the Corporate Social Responsibility Committee. It also provides to allow eligible companies under Section 135 to set off any amount spent in excess of their corporate social responsibility spending obligation in a particular financial year towards such obligation in subsequent financial years, to provide for a window within which penalties shall not be levied for delay in filing annual returns and financial statements in certain cases, to provide for specified classes of unlisted companies to prepare and file their periodical financial results, and to allow direct listing of securities by Indian companies in permissible foreign jurisdictions as per rules to be prescribed.
At this moment, all the companies who are earning profit, they are required to spend at least 2% of their profit on the corporate social responsibilities, and they have to form some kind of committees. They have to do a lot of compliance in this thing. They have to mention in their annual reports. Now it has been decided that companies whose turnover is less than rupees 50 lakh, they will not be required to form any kind of committee or something like that. And also, even if a large company has spent more than 2%, that can be carried forward, in the next year. So that is going to give some kind of relief on the corporate social responsibility.
As per information available with the government, Indian businesses spend more than 10,000 crore rupees a year on CSR. CSR expenditure by companies listed at NSE has grown at a healthy compounded annual growth rate of 17% over the last 5 years. In financial year 2018-19, the total expenditure by Indian companies through corporate social responsibility route was 11,867.2 crore rupees, the highest since such spends became mandatory in 2015. The financial year 2018-19 spend was 17.2% higher than the 10,128.3 crore rupees spent the previous year. In 2015, it was 6,552.5 crore rupees or 1.57% of the company's total net profit on CSR. It was nearly 30% lower than 2019 at 7.45 crore rupees on an average per company. While the CSR law mandates spending across 12 prescribed schedules, few companies deployed CSR spends towards community development, infrastructure, social welfare, child welfare, and several other activities. The Companies Act mandates that firms with a net worth of at least 500 crore rupees or revenue of 1,000 crore rupees or net profit of 5 crore rupees should spend at least 2% of their net profit on CSR. The spends could be under heads ranging from education and healthcare to sports or even for ensuring gender equality. Any failure in this regard should be explained in the annual financial statement of the company. The CSR Act also mandates companies to appoint a CSR committee comprising at least 3 members of the board, of which at least 1 member should be independent. In financial year 2018-19, out of the total 1,786 companies listed on the NSE, 885 had such CSR committees in place. Several companies went beyond the requirement since 413 companies had appointed more than 3 members in their CSR committees.
There are a lot of evident benefits. Some of the financials one are promoting the debt route of funding for companies, the foreign listing enabling provisions, CSR spends of being carried forward where the nature of the project requires a larger corpus what a company otherwise should be spending based on the computation of profits. So these are some of the financial benefits. The offences being put into different buckets for the in-house education or the civil procedures should promote enabling provisions. Of course, as I said earlier, having done rightfully under the umbrella of the governance, risk and compliances for the company and so on. So companies should get benefit.
The Companies Amendment Bill 2020 also proposes that specified classes of unlisted companies have to prepare and file their periodical financial results at a frequency that will be notified later. This provision is aimed at improving corporate governance. The idea is to bring more transparency into the affairs of closely held companies, which are at times used by major shareholders in companies with large public interest to divert funds through transactions that are not on arm's length basis. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And time now for a very short break here on the program. We'll be right back. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching In Depth. Let's now talk about the provisions of the Companies Act of 2013 and the changes made to it in 2019. The Parliament passed the Companies Amendment Bill 2019 on the 30th of July last year. The bill, which amended the Companies Act of 2013, tightened corporate social responsibility norms and ensured stricter action for non-compliance of the company law regulations.
Parliament passed the Companies Amendment Bill 2019 on July 30th last year to amend the Companies Act 2013 while replacing the Companies Amendment Second Ordinance 2019. On July 27, 2019, introducing the bill in Lok Sabha, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had said the bill seeks to tighten corporate social responsibility norms and ensure stricter action for non-compliance of the company law regulations. And companies earning profit of over 5 crore rupees, having a turnover of 100 crore rupees or net worth of more than 500 crore rupees are required to shell out at least 2% of their 3-year annual average net profit towards CSR activities. The bill empowers the Registrar of Companies to initiate action for removal of the name of the company from Register of Companies if it is not carrying on any business or operation in accordance with the company law. Among other things, the bill also provides for recategorization of 16 minor offences as purely civil defaults. It also provides for shifting of powers for conversion from public to private companies from NCLT to the central government, as well as more clarity with respect to certain powers of the National Financial Reporting Authority.
Amendments are not just being brought in suo motu, but they are being brought in because there's a demand and in response to attending to the people's inconveniences and addressing them. Of course, ease of doing business, which is very dear to this government, and we want to make sure that we attend to ease of doing business. We are attending to it not on norms which we've got for ourselves. Ease of doing business is more from the point of view of companies which are at the ground facing difficulties. And in this, not big companies alone. In fact, small and medium companies are the ones for whom several measures have been taken by this government, and therefore this set of amendments which are coming, both having amendments which have been passed through the ordinance and also amendments which are now being brought in addition to what had been passed through the ordinance, are all aimed at ease of doing business for small, medium and large companies as much as any other companies which are being troubled because of the Companies Act.
In 2018, in order to review the existing provisions of the Companies Act 2013 dealing with offences and to make recommendations to promote better corporate compliance, the Government of India constituted a committee in July last year. The Government of India constituted a committee in July. The said committee, after taking the views of several stakeholders, submitted its report in August 2018. Accordingly, it was proposed to amend certain provisions of the Companies Act 2013. However, in view of the urgency, Companies Amendment Ordinance 2018 was promulgated on November 2nd that year. To replace the aforesaid ordinance, a bill, namely the Companies Amendment Bill 2018, was introduced in the Lok Sabha and passed in the said House on January 4, 2019. However, the said bill could not be taken up for consideration in the Rajya Sabha. In order to give continued effect to the Companies Amendment Ordinance 2018, the President promulgated the Companies Amendment Ordinance 2019 and the Companies Amendment Second Ordinance 2019 on January 12, 2019 and February 21, 2019 respectively.
On 4th January 2019, the replacement bill was considered and passed by the Lok Sabha as the Companies Amendment Bill of 2019. This House has passed that, and therefore in 2019, 4th January, the Companies Amendment Bill was passed as a replacement bill of the ordinance which was earlier passed. The bill was transmitted to the Rajya Sabha and was listed for consideration and passing on 7th January to 9th January of 2019. From 7th, 8th and 9th, it was listed in the Rajya Sabha but could not be considered and passed by the Rajya Sabha. Then, On 12th January, the company's amendment ordinance was promulgated again. So, that was the second ordinance on the same subject. On the same subject, the second ordinance was passed in January, on 12th of January 2019. So, on 31st January 2019, the replacement bill, namely the Companies Amendment Bill 2019, as passed by the Lok Sabha and lying in the Rajya Sabha, could not be passed during the budget session. Then, approval of the Cabinet was obtained again, and therefore a replacement bill to replace the Companies Ordinance 2018 was passed by the Lok Sabha 16th, I've said that, 16th Lok Sabha on 4th January 2018.
The Companies Amendment Bill 2019 was passed by the Lok Sabha on July 27, 2019, before being passed by Rajya Sabha on July 30, 2019. The Companies Amendment Act 2019 received the assent of the President on 31st July. The Companies Act 2019 was enacted to consolidate and amend the law relating to companies. The Act replaced the Companies Act of 1956 after receiving the assent of the President of India on 29th August 2013. With inputs from Leena Sharma, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And that's it from us on this edition of In Depth. We'll be back same time tomorrow now with a focus on some other subject of current significance. In case you missed the television broadcast of our program, you can also watch it online on YouTube, Twitter, and also on Facebook. And you can also get back to us with your feedback and suggestions. Thank you for your time.